The men aren't masculine anymore. And I think that's something that we need to start acknowledging, because I feel like we spend so much time deconstructing what is a woman, who is a woman, when we really need to be deconstructing what the fuck is a man and why do we have a male problem. Um, and we do, and hold on, and I'm gonna talk about that later, because there is a difference between a man and a male. And I think if we address the male issue, eventually the man issue will be problem. So let's just start with a man, right? Like, let's just start with the men not being masculine anymore, because I think that'll help, like, y'all understand what I'm talking about. So let's talk about what my version of masculinity is, right? And I think a lot more men would be happier if they were more masculine. See, the problem with society is when we're addressing women, when we're talking about what a woman is and femininity, what it means to be feminine, they're always talking about social contracts. What a woman wears, how she dresses, how she moves, and if she's nurturing, caring, can she do domestic labor? That's their version of a female, because they're just looking for, somebody to outsource all the things they don't want to do. That's what men do with women. However, when women are talking about a masculine man, they're rarely talking about social presentation. Very rarely do the women who genuinely appreciate a masculine man, are they talking about social presentation. So what is it? What does it mean to be a masculine man? Okay. And it's so funny, because the things that women actually view as masculine, men find that degrading. They find it harmful. And they're like, well, that's genetic. We can't help it. Unfortunately, that's life, right? That's the reality. And that's why I say men are always trying to create social constructs to outsource the fact that they don't have it naturally. And that's why we live in a patriarchy. That's why we live in a capitalistic system. That's why we live in a racist system, right? Because men are always trying to find worth in social construction. So let me get to it. And then it'll explain everything, because I've made a video about this before, and maybe I'll add it in here so you kind of get what I'm saying. A masculine man, when I'm evaluating a man's masculinity, I am evaluating his height, his muscle mass, his discipline, right? His strength, his mental resilience, his motivation. To me, that is what it means to be a man. Are you physically strong? Are you physically capable? Do you have the power to dominate? Are you tall? What type of vessel do you inhabit? Are you disciplined? Are you mentally capable of using that vessel to accomplish something? The vast majority of men are not, right? So we have a masculinity issue. The men are not masculine. They're not disciplined in their masculinity, right? And I think that is why men fail at being men, right? We are breeding a generation of failed boys, of failed males, woo, because we live in a pseudo society that does not allow men to be male. I need a male first before I can turn him into a man. Because if a male always is in a pre-pubescent, immature style, he can never become a man. That's what we're not acknowledging, right? We are not giving males an environment to mature their maleness. Does that make sense? Y'all let me know if that makes sense. Leave a comment. I need to know if people think that this makes sense, right? The only outlet that society gives men, males, the ability to be males is through sex. Through sex or sports, right? But now we know less and less men play sports, right? And this is why some of the most masculine men, the men that women are actually attracted to, are athletes. They're athletes. They're hardworking men. They're men who work with their hands, because women know what it means to be a masculine man. Women have not forgotten. And Y'all can talk about all these bioessentialist conversations. I don't give a fuck. That's white people bullshit. White people, no tea, no shade, they want to escape the reality that human beings are animals. We are animals. We have biological, and I want to be very like precise when I say this, because obviously there are limitations to biology and there is a human aspect of it. However, we cannot completely usurp the fact that there is a biological element to being male and a biological element to being female. So men, like when we live in a society of men, right, we are not giving men the opportunity to do their testosterone driven activities, right? Only in adolescence. And once they're out of adolescence, they don't have anywhere to direct that male energy other than sex. And then that's where we create a society that is hyper toxic towards women. There are no other outlets for men to be male. And that's why we have a problem. We need to find a way. No, fuck all that. If society operated in a way that it should, right? Because let's be clear, we don't need jobs. We don't need, and y'all gonna say this is super radical. I don't care. I am a radical thinker. I don't care. Society needs to be vastly restructured. Men don't need to be at a keyboard all day. Men don't need to be in a fucking office. Men need to be working with their hands. They need to be moving their fucking body, and they need to be working through that testosterone. They do. Because when they get home, all they want to do is beat their fucking dicks and play video games, right? Because the video game, it also that male urge to problem solve, right? Because males do have that, or I don't know what it is about testosterone or whatever, but men get that problem solving nature, right? Where they quest seeking. It's not even problem solving. What is the word? Like the goal seeking, right? Men like to accomplish things. And so since men are having a hard time accomplish things within the capitalistic patriarchal system, they get that done through games, right? And so society has structured itself very well. The capitalistic white supremacist system that we live in has structured itself so finitely that it has encapsulated men so completely that it is almost impossible for women to take back control over the male form. And we need to, because there is no society without women, right? Obviously, there's no society without men, but I mean, quite frankly, there's no human life without women. And I will make my arguments for matriarchy later. I don't even have fucking time right now. I'm just here to tell y'all that we have a masculinity problem. And if we could solve our masculinity problem, then we could solve our male problem. And so the vast majority of boys do not have an outlet to be in touch or be in tune with their masculinity. We need to start figuring out how we solve that. Because until we solve that, we can't turn boys into men. In order for us to have men, we must first get males. Okay. So that's just how I feel. We're approaching that time, right? And I want to talk about the right versus the left real quick. Because when you look at the right versus the left, you see this clear divide. The right, and I'm talking about politics, the right is very structured. The left is very individualistic. Men don't do well in individualistic systems. The individualistic system is the patriarchy, right? Is the epitome of the patriarchy. Men competing with each other instead of working together for a common goal. Men accomplish things better together. Men love sports. Men love talking about sports together. Men love group activities. Men are homosocial. Once men graduate from high school, college, there are no more homosocial environments. That is a problem for men. Men do not have community. That is a problem for men, which means it's a problem for women. Do you see how this is a product of the patriarchy? If you keep men disconnected, you can effectively control them and synthesize, what is the word? Maneuver their male energy into the system of capitalism, right? Because this society's biggest fear, when I say society, I mean the elite. Society's biggest fear is men coming together and rebelling against the system, which is why they give men women as a consolation prize, right? They appeal to the only aspect left of their nature that they can't funnel into the system, which honestly, they have found ways to funnel even male sexual desire into the system, right? That's why we have OnlyFans now. That's why porn is such a huge thing. This is why they created porn, because they needed to over-sexualize the male brain so that they can make women a subjugated class. And so if men feel like their male energy is controlled or what is the word? Anchored or pushed into the desire for women, then they can control men. If men know that they need women, in order to get a woman, they need a job, they need to have this, they need a car, they need clothes, men are going to work extra hard to accomplish something within the system. But let's look at the alternative. What if men thought that the way to get a woman was to be a good member of their community? What if men thought that being a man in order to get a woman was to be an honorable member of society, a man who protected women and children, a man whose male energy was directed at something other than external gratification? And not just external gratification, but superficial gratification, right? The problem is that society teaches men that their worth is what they can do for a capitalistic system. Nothing about that is masculine. It is inherently, I don't know what it is. It's not masculine. It's very vain. Okay? And see, that's what I'm saying. That's the difference between the right and the left. The left teaches men to be individuals. The right teaches them that they're one thing, right? And so a man is patriotic, right? He's a patriot. He's fighting for his country. They find pride in being a good patriot. His self-worth isn't just in his ability to have sex with women or to be an individual and dress himself and wear cute clothes and get cars. His internal self-worth is in his ability to provide for his family, in his ability to be a patriot. And while I'm never going to say that the right is good. Obviously, the right is heavily toxic and they got a lot of stuff to work on over there. Racism and all that. That's not the point. The point is that they have properly learned how to channel male energy, which is why they are almost in agreement and they can get stuff done. Have y'all noticed how the right can get things done and the left cannot? That is why. They have learned how to channel male energy over there to accomplish societal goals. We have not accomplished that on the left because the left is teaching men how to be individuals. And even more so, the left is teaching men that they don't need to be masculine. When the left is telling the men to get in touch with their feminine side, they want them to be women. Quite literally. They want them to wear what women wear. They want them to put on crop tops and glittery clothes and all that stuff. Now, I'm not trying to be homophobic because I already know this is coming off homophobic. I definitely know. My point is that when women were telling men to get in touch with their feminine side, not in my wildest dreams that I thought that meant dressing like a woman, wearing jewelry and getting all these piercings and da-da-da. What do that have to do with being in touch with your feminine side? That's bullshit. That's the white supremacist value system of what it means to be a woman. But honestly, getting in touch with your feminine side was always a colloquial saying. When women were telling men to get in touch with their feminine side, they were telling men to be more nurturing, more caring, more self-intuned. It was always a colloquial speech. It was never literal. And so now we have men getting in touch with their feminine side and they're still not in touch with their feminine side. What the fuck is going on? I'm tired. So we have a masculinity problem. I'm gonna keep saying that because we have a masculinity problem. And as women, we cannot just keep thinking about what we're going to do amongst ourselves. It's not enough. We have to start figuring out how are we going to channel the males for the best energy of society. That's what they're here for. Hello, that's what they're here for. Is this thing on? That's what they're here for. That's why we created them. And yes, we created them. If God created a man, what did we need? If God created man, why did he ever need woman? No, woman created man. Period. That's the truth. That's the purpose. Men have a purpose. We all have a purpose, and I'm tired of acting like we don't have a purpose. I'm not a bioessentialist, but let's be real. This is the only society when you look at animals where the men are in charge. It's unnatural, but it's the only society where men are actively trying to destroy their own community. And it's because we've created a pseudo society. And so as women, and I'm just going to end the video here because I don't want it to get too long. As women, we need to start figuring out what we're going to do about the lack of masculinity within society. And let's not act like women don't have anything to do with that because we're raising the boys. We're raising the boys. So yeah. Thank you guys for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Peace out.